You're on Brass Tacks. I'm Anand, Narasimhan. Ladies and gentlemen, we are seeing an unprecedented surge, and they're saying that it's not going to plateau anytime soon. But one aspect is, even as the nation is looking at 3.46 lakh cases on a daily caseload in the last 24 hours, and there are about 2,600 plus deaths, there is some aspect that we need to also keep an eye on. The fact is, we've had nearly 2.2 lakh recoveries. So the recoveries number is also surging, which is a very, very heartening development. That means there are more people who are back on the path to recovery, and India is healing. And that is something which is very, very encouraging. We continue to maintain that nearly 3 million jabs, vaccine jabs, 29 lakh vaccine jabs have been administered in the last 24 hours. 13.8 crore plus is the total vaccine doses. So we are nearing 1.4 crore or we are nearing 14 crore, or that is more than 10% of our population. National recovery rate stands at 83.5%. It's the fastest worldwide vaccination drive for us. National mortality rate is currently falling and is at 1.1%. So that mortality remains near about the 1% mark, which is also very, very encouraging. And there are 0 COVID deaths in 11 states. So that's gone up. That's gone up in the last 24 hours. It was 7 states, it's gone to 11 states. 76% of the cases are now being reported only from 10 states. That number has also gone up. So the caseload is limited to 10 states. 60% of the active cases is limited to 5 states, ladies and gentlemen. So there is reason for us to be very, very optimistic, to be hopeful, and to believe in ourselves that we will heal. We as a nation will heal faster, recover faster. We only hope that more people recover, more people come back and fight back this virus. Now, amid the entire oxygen crisis in the Delhi NCR region, patients and their kin running from pillar to post for beds and oxygen, here's a special initiative to serve from the Sikh community. A Gurudwara in Indirapuram, Guru Singh Sahib Gurudwara, has introduced a unique form of free service, the Oxygen Langar, where oxygen cylinders are made available to people in dire need. Arun Dhanta gets us these details.
We are here in Indirapuram's Guru Singh Sahib Gurudwara, who's providing all the assistance to those people who are lacking oxygen, and this is how they are helping. You can see Gurudwara people are helping with these oxygen cylinders. People who have come here who don't have the oxygen supply, these are the people who have risen to the occasion to help the people. This service which they are providing to the people free of cost.
Wow, absolutely fantastic. Meanwhile, the Indian Air Force today deployed its C-17 transport aircraft to airlift 2 empty container trucks from Pune and deposit them at Jamnagar in Gujarat. The Indian Air Force has also deployed a C-17 aircraft to the Changi Airport in Singapore to carry cryogenic oxygen cylinders to India. The 4 containers of cryogenic oxygen will be delivered to Panagarh Air Base. Then, Oxygen Express trains have delivered nearly 150 tons of oxygen in the last 24 hours. Trains carrying trucks with liquid medical oxygen cylinders reached Nashik in Maharashtra and Lucknow in Uttar Pradesh. The containers unloaded at Nagpur and Varanasi en route now to supply medical oxygen in these regions. A 3rd train has also left Lucknow today. More trains to transport oxygen are also in the pipeline. And amid a flood of complaints over dwindling oxygen supplies in the national capital, the Delhi police has stepped up again today to ensure a green corridor for oxygen-laden trucks from Panipat in Haryana via the Singhu border to multiple hospitals in Delhi. The tanker is being escorted by MPVs Comet 18A and 14A. Remember, the Prime Minister has stressed that tankers carrying oxygen are to be treated at par with ambulances. Well, very, very encouraging, ladies and gentlemen. But one of the aspects that we've got to look forward to is starting the 1st of May, we are going to witness a vaccine drive that will want to vaccinate everybody who's above the age of 18. But what we also see is a price politics that is currently playing out. Even as vaccine manufacturers are saying that the price that they are quoting to the government is the lowest at which they can actually continue to produce. There are those who are trying to ask, why isn't the vaccine for all free for all? Let's try and understand the vaccine politics in the run-up to the most ambitious vaccination drive. Because right now, if we are averaging about 3 million vaccines per day, we have to amp it up to about 5 million vaccines per day if we are going to actually vaccinate a bulk of our population in the next 6 to 8 months. But there is no end to the politics over this pricing of the vaccine. Now, despite the fact that many states have come forward to bear the cost of vaccines, Jammu and Kashmir, the latest among the union territories, also to drive in and say that they are going to vaccinate anybody above the age of 18 for free. There are several political leaders that have raised a storm over the 600 rupee price per dose in private hospitals. The Serum Institute has issued a clarification ensuring complete transparency on the supply of vaccine to governments and private hospitals. Calls have also arisen for government to invoke the competitive licensing clause in the 1970 Patent Act to control vaccine price and also to increase the vaccine production by expanding the ambit of giving vaccine licenses. Nupur Sharma, spokesperson of the BJP, is with us this evening. Sanjay Jha, political analyst, is with us. And Anand Singh Luthra, advocate, Delhi High Court, LLM University of Cambridge, is also with us. Thank you very, very much. The idea is to understand the whole aspect of politics that is being played. Sanjay Jha, one issue is that there are opposition parties. When the vaccine was not there, they said vaccine आने दो, हम free में दे देंगे. Center क्यों control कर रहा है vaccine? Then they raised doubts about the vaccine in the first place, कि ये vaccine effective है कि नहीं है. Now they are turning around and saying, why are private hospitals charging 600 rupees? Why are vaccine manufacturers being allowed to sell at 600 rupees per dose? Do you believe this is a fair question to raise? Saying government should give it free of cost to everybody.
Anand, there are two sides to the story and they are very uncomplicated. Number one, we are missing the woods for the trees here. The problem is not the price of the vaccine. The challenge before us is the supply of the vaccine. Because right now what we need is as many jabs in the arms of Indians. Because vaccination, as has been proven in the example of the US, UK, Israel and other countries, is the best way for us to get back to our normal lives. Now, I do believe that this argument is frankly very disingenuous, if not altogether fallacious. And I'll tell you how it works out that way. If you look at India's population and remove those who are below 18 years of age, you are down to approximately around 95 crore people. Now, out of that, you need around 70% of the people to get herd immunity, by which time you will have controlled it, which means you need to vaccinate 70% of the people.
That's about
which is around 65 crores. Now, already you have done around 14 crores, which leaves behind 51. Now, the government has already said that they are going to take 50% of the Serum Institute or the Covaxin at the usual subsidized rate, which is the government is giving it for free anyways. That takes away another 30 crores. Now, all the states, we are left with just about 30 crores. Now, this population is being covered by the states, and those who have a choice can go to the breach candies or Apollo hospitals of the world. But the states are not going to shirk off their responsibility as well. The states are also mostly going to give it for free. So you're talking about a small 10%, maybe 5, maybe 15 max, who have to pay the 600 rupees. Now, there are two things here, Anand. The cost of an RT-PCR is over 1,000. My daughter went abroad. I had to pay 1,200 bucks for her test. But we are not willing to pay 600 rupees for a vaccine. I mean, do you see how preposterous that entire analogy is?
Yes.
Secondly, and very critical here, that at this point of time, the government has been forced to import foreign vaccines. Now, they are going to cost you over 1,000, even a Sputnik or, whichever one you take, or Pfizer, whatever, they might cost more than that. So if Serum today is asking for 600 to the private hospitals, I mean, end of day, even that business needs to survive. Even the Serum needs some degree of a profit to reinvest into their production. And don't forget, Anand, because of the constraint, Serum has got a legal case against it by AstraZeneca. It is already defaulting on its COVAX commitments. I think at this point, all of us need to understand one thing. We got to save lives of each and every Indian citizen. We will, Nupur and I can argue thereafter till the cows come home as to who screwed up where and who messed up where. But right now, for God's sake, don't waste your time on price. And India can afford it. Let me tell you, we got a 350 million middle class population. India has 140 billionaires. We got 3 lakh millionaires. And I can tell you today, I hope the government just like Mr. Modi did for LPG cylinders. Tell people, don't
Give it
go
up.
for the government one, pay in the private hospital.
No,
Why
no,
not?
no, and not just that, give it up. And you can also sponsor the
Yeah.
vaccine for somebody near and dear. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, organizations like Reliance, which Network 18 is a part of, organizations like the Tatas, organizations like Infosys have already come out and said that they will pay, the organization will pay for the vaccination of its employees and their family. That itself comes to about 20 to 30 million people. That's not a small number across these big corporate giants who are already doing it. So the idea of this entire price politics, everybody coming out and saying our vaccines are the most expensive, government is not doing. Nupur Sharma, how would you want to respond to this? Before I bring in Ansh and the other aspect, yeah.
For a change, I do agree with Sanjay. For a change, really. I'm no spokesperson for any private corporate. I'm no spokesperson for SII or biotech. But for all those naysayers, especially political ones who've got a problem with Serum Institute, even then giving a highly subsidized rate, I clearly remember Mr. Adar Poonawala saying 3 months ago that the current price of 150 rupees is a cap price specifically meant for the central government in the first phase of vaccination drive. And that day he also said, I plan to, charge 1,000 rupees a jab. He has actually listened to the government because the government task force is very serious. Yeah. We don't want the price of the vaccination to be beyond means of people. But for those politicians who are running state governments, if you've got such a huge problem with 600 rupees privately, well, pay up your share. Because the 400 rupees in the new contract is what the central government is also paying. And the same price is now open to the state governments. If the central government is willing to pay 50% and it's going to continue with its current inoculation drive, and in central government hospitals, inoculation is free of cost, and the government has already paid 3,000 plus 1,500 crores to both SI and biotech, what stops the state governments? Many have come forth. But I will finish by saying this. The problem is with people who spend on an average 50 crores on advertising and only earmark 50 crores in the entire budget for vaccination. For example, in the state of Delhi, 50 crores is going to hardly inoculate 6.25 lakh people if there is not a single wastage. In a state with over 2.5 crore population, if that's all that you can possibly do, then I'm sorry, fingers are pointing at you, not at anybody else. You do your bit. The government of India has been doing a lot.
No, that's a fair point, but I'm just going to bring in Ansh Luthra on another aspect, Nupur Sharma and Sanjay Jha, where I would like to draw your attention. We as a nation have the ability to make 8.2 billion vaccine doses every year. 8.2 billion vaccine doses across all kinds of vaccine and various manufacturers, vaccine manufacturers, Ansh Luthra. Covaxin is our vaccine. Covaxin is where the government is also invested in. But Covaxin with Bharat Biotech, the current production capability is only 150 million doses per year. Why is it, Ansh Luthra, that the government is hesitating from invoking the clause in Patent Act 1970? Explain to our viewers. If the Hafkin Institute can make, why can't 4 other vaccine manufacturers also help make Covaxin, and why can't we amp it up to 150 million doses per month rather than 150 million doses per year? Especially when the Covaxin is so effective. The efficacy is amazing. Ansh Luthra.
The government has taken a right step in giving the Hafkin Institute a voluntary license, not a compulsory license in regard to Covaxin. And it can do so to other state players as well as private players, which will, number one, ramp up production capacity. Number two, make it easily accessible. Number three, make it affordable. As we all agree, right now, the only way we are going to end this pandemic is when we get millions of jabs in the arms of our citizens. So voluntary licensing by government of this Covaxin is one way forward, both to private entities as well as state entities. The second, more controversial, less popular opinion, but right now I'm not bothered about popular opinion because people's lives are at stake, is compulsory licensing under Section 92 of the Indian Patents Act 1970. Under this, the government can issue a notification in the official gazette which would empower the controller of drugs to issue licenses to applicants, which would again increase availability, increase production, make it more affordable, and also give a profit to the patent holder, being AstraZeneca. So both these approaches must be taken. We must ramp up production. This is not rocket science. Unless we get vaccinated, unless we increase our inoculation drive by multifold, we are not going to arrest death rate. We are not going to arrest infection rate.
Yeah.
So, but where is the concern now? Why is the government hesitating in invoking this clause? Can it not do it with Covaxin?
The voluntary license aspect, which it has done to the Haskin Institute, and which is the right step forward, is a low-hanging fruit. It can do so to other state players who have the manufacturing capacity, and it can also do it to private players who are willing and have the manufacturing capacity. Compulsory licensing, like I said, is less popular because then it deters big pharma into further research and development. But in this crisis situation, we should not care about that. Further, also I must say, compulsory licensing can be time limited. Why do you want to have it for 5 years? Have it for 6 months or 10 months till we tide over this crisis. After that, AstraZeneca can charge 600, 900, whatever it wants.
Nupur Sharma, would you like to respond to this? Even with Covaxin, it's our vaccine. Why is it that there aren't multiple vaccine manufacturers who've been already asked to manufacture it?
I think Covaxin manufacturing is already, if I'm reading what Dr. Harshvardhan wrote correctly and said correctly, he has actually given the responsibility to, I think, 4 other manufacturers as well. In fact, if the figures are correct to go by, the current capacity was 1 crore a month. And now Covaxin is going to, Bharat Biotech is going to see 6 to 7 by June, July, and up to 10 crore vaccinations by September 2021. So they are ramping up. It is not that they are not ramping up. As far as licensing is happening, I'm sure the government is doing its bit. I'm sure a lot of decisions are taken. We are also seeing around 5 more vaccines in the pipeline to be approved by the government of India. So I'm sure the government is going to ensure that this vaccination drive is up and running and rather successful by early next year.
No, but this is the update that I have. Bharat Biotech Covaxin is still going to be amped up only to 700 million doses annually. They are going to do it after the government has approved a payment of 4,500 crore as advance to vaccine makers, including Bharat Biotech and Serum Institute. So that's the 3,000 crore and the 1,500 crore grant which the government has extended. But that again, Nupur Sharma, is my concern. My concern is that this is a vaccine where the government has also got a stake in it. The government, if it wants, can also compensate Bharat Biotech adequately, rather than not in huge amounts, but can compensate, and it can ask other vaccine manufacturers to manufacture it on a temporary basis to the next 12 months to amp up the production to at least 200 million doses a month. See, if we are going to push for vaccination, we have to aggregate 5 to 6 million doses a day. My concern is that why is that not being focused on? Sanjay Jha wants to say something. Yeah.
Yeah, Anand, I think the issue is, which Adar has been pointing out, and including the people from Bharat Biotech has said, it takes them approximately 2 to 3 months to get their entire production process ready to ramp up the whole production. As you can see, the US laws on currently they have invoked their own local laws, the DPA, which prohibits them from actually exporting raw materials that are required here to produce Covishield, for example. So I do believe,
Adar said Covishield is not going to get affected, but Covovax is, and that's where he's saying that.
Not entirely, but then there's also that other drug which they are using, the Novavax.
Yeah.
I think so. There are implications here for the world at large. But I have a simple analogy for the price problem. You see, if somebody is dying of thirst, you're not going to tell him, I won't give you a Bisleri, please wait for some tap water to come. I think we need to be very clear here that please provide the vaccines. And I can tell you the corporate sector has a CSR budget. Encourage the corporate sector to kind of subsidize wherever it's required. But for God's sake, let's remember this. If we are going to delay the supply of vaccination, every day there are thousands of people becoming vulnerable. We have 3 lakh cases per day. And even if 2,000 people are dying, can you imagine how much is
No, I understand. We don't want a single person to die. My concern, and Nupur Sharma, I'm bringing it back to you because there seems to be a certain level of hesitancy to allow to invoke this clause and to really amp up the vaccine production, because there are corporates who are waiting to inoculate their entire employees and their families, who will step up, who will also bankroll it, who will pay up the charges. And if you are able to amp up the vaccine production, the costs will also come down. Is there a reason why there is a bit of a reluctance there? And Ansh, please come in after Nupur Sharma.
No, not that I know of any. In fact, as far as I'm concerned and my knowledge goes, we are also opening up imports of vaccination. If you're open to imports, certainly we won't have a problem with our indigenous vaccination. I think give it some time. This is being spoken of now. Currently, the issue was about ramping up the manufacturing capacity of both SII and of Bharat Biotech. And the last official figure that we got was ramping up to 10 crores jabs a month by September 2021. However, given that 4 other plants have been given approval to go ahead and manufacture, the impetus that was necessary to come from the central government, I'm sure, as you said, with the licensing issue, the government will take it up. Let's just see how things go. At first, the registration needs to start on 28th. I am pretty sure with the importation of vaccinations, with approvals to 5 other, with the 3 already approved, with Dr. Reddy is going to finally also making Sputnik V at home, and SII ramping up, and also Bharat Biotech ramping up. Decisions will be taken when we cross the bridge.
No, but that's what I'm trying. That's where my concern is, and I'm preempting a concern, Anshrutra. I'm saying that this decision should have been taken sometime in March, so that by June we were in a position to produce at least 1 billion doses in our country in terms of the COVID vaccine against COVID-19 is concerned, because we have existing capacities which can also be diverted. If 3 other manufacturers, vaccine manufacturers, were able to give even 20% of their capacity to manufacture co-vaccine, imagine the numbers that we can boost. And is that not possible? We have the laws in place.
I want to give a caveat. I am apolitical and I'm only talking about facts and figures here.
Yeah.
Till last year, we were called the vaccine factory of the world.
Yeah.
Now, this low-hanging fruit which I was talking about in voluntary licensing, not the unpopular compulsory licensing provision, which also must be invoked if required, of giving voluntary licenses like the government has given, which is a good step, to the Hafkin and the other 3 that Ms. Sharma is mentioning. Why doesn't it open it to private players? What is the problem? Like you said, private players, even if they divert a small portion of their capacity, it is only going to help the general population. It is going to make more drugs. It is going to make cheap drugs. It is going to make accessible drugs. Also, I must mention this Hafkin Biopharma, the CEO has said that the first jab from their factory will only be out in January 2022. Hence, we've done too little, and I think it might be too late.
Sanjay Jha.
Anand, you are absolutely right in pointing out that the government should have been aware that there will be a deficit of vaccines. And clearly, we took our eye off what should have been the most critical challenge for us. But you know, the number that you quoted at the beginning of the program is bang on. If India can reach a target of 5 million vaccinations per day, it will take us 3 months to cover, 45 crore people. Add to that the 14 we have done, we have hit herd immunity. And at the moment, with other Poonawala's company probably ramping up from 70 million to 100 million in the next 3 months, and biotech probably reaching, I don't know, approximately 15 million by June, I mean, there is going to be a shortfall. Therefore, I think what Nupur, the BJP or the government needs to do is import the vaccines. Don't worry about the price at this stage. And more importantly, as I think both other and the lawyer has been correctly mentioning, try and distribute the responsibility of producing the local vaccine to as many people as possible, because we should create an oversupply.
But you know what is happening, Sanjay Jha? There is so much already. There is so much of deliberate misinformation and panic spreading which is happening on the vaccine issue. It started when they started raising doubts on the efficacy of Covaxin. Then they tried to pit Covishield versus Covaxin. Then there were others who were trying to say both Covishield and Covaxin cannot be trusted. It started from there, and that also triggered a huge amount of vaccine hesitancy in the beginning. Now there are people who are trying to deliberately misinterpret that states and the center will have to pay different prices. Nupur Sharma wants to say something. Yes, Nupur.
Well, I don't really think that vaccine hesitancy is the reason, because we all clearly remember while Covishield was called as a vaccine which would make somebody impotent, and it's BJP ki vaccine, although it's Oxford vaccine. When Covaxin came in, some very so-called responsible leaders came out with statements, oh, it's premature authorization. And by that, I mean Shashi Tharoor, Anand Sharma's and Jairam Ramesh's of the world. So I don't think that exactly could be the reason for any kind of, you can say why the government was stopping short. No, we are the country to have inoculated the maximum number of people in the shortest time. Over 13 crore people in some 95 roughly days. You need to appreciate that. That's faster than, say, US and even China. What I'm trying to say is, I think currently given that the government right now is looking at how to open up the market to a lot of vaccinations. First, clearances also need to be given. SEC approvals need to be given. I think we need to just cross the bridge when we get there. I do not honestly think that the government is just, hesitant, I would use that word itself, in allowing private players to come in and up the manufacturing of Covaxin. I don't think so. I
no,
think
no, I
that's the
totally,
reason.
I
Currently,
respect
you're waiting up.
everybody wants to ensure that the entire population is vaccinated and vaccine is available for all. But my point here is that is this happening a little too late, and should this have happened earlier? Now already people and I'm saying this, people are unnecessarily trying to create a divide, saying center को अलग rate पे दे रहे हैं, state को अलग rate पे दे रहे हैं, private hospital वाला confusion create कर रहा है, 400 रुपया 600 रुपया. But there is no need. The point is state after state is coming out and saying if you are a citizen resident of a particular state, that state is automatically coming out and saying go and get a jab at a government center. It's free of cost for you. The state is bearing the cost. If you're working with a company like I am working with the Reliance Group, the Reliance Group has come out and a full network. It's under they've undertaken that the day the vaccine is available and it's open, we will fund it. You get yourself vaccinated, we'll give it to you. This is the level to which the commitment is coming through. Why create all these issues? My issue is that people are ready to get people vaccinated, but there should not be a dearth of vaccine doses, Nupur Sharma, because the government was hesitant in terms of trying to license. Use the CL clause, the compulsory licensing clause, or also encourage voluntary licensing and also amp up. We do not have a stockpile that we should have had. We should have had a stockpile of at least 20 crore vaccines right now. We don't have that, Nupur Sharma. That's the concern. Final word, 10 seconds, please. Yeah. Nupur Sharma.
Well, Anand, the government is certainly working at ramping up its inventories, if I would call it that. I obviously am not in the government. I'm not in the know of the kind of decisions the government is currently taking. Certainly, they would not even involve me. I'm just a party spokesperson. But as far as, this entire issue of politics being played, well, initially, there were people who were jittery.
Right.
Ultimately, people went out and got the jab.
Right.
Here comes the time. I don't think it's too little too late. The government is already ramping up production. In fact, it's planned till September 2021. I think when you speak about, how, don't you think we should have had 20 crores? I'm sure the government is planning along those lines.
No, I hope we are, because I'm just going to tell you as I wind up that from the 1st of May, there will be a surge and we will go from 3 lakh vaccines per day to at least 5 lakh vaccines per day. So 30 lakh vaccines per day to 50 lakh vaccines per day. And that's what's going to happen. And that this will happen pan-India. Are we ready for it? Or can we open up the licensing bit, use the Patent Act and the clause that we have to try and get some of our own vaccine manufacturers to start helping make more vaccine doses? That's all we have time for in this edition of Brass Tacks. Thank you to all our guests. Stay with us here on CNN News 18.